to our newest Aspiring Leaders webinar. Tonight we are very lucky to have both Debbie Campbell and Michele Hill with us. I'm going to allow them to both introduce themselves. But ladies, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us this evening.
Thank you. I'm Michele Hill. I am a teacher, a world language teacher and special ed teacher at Delsea Regional High School, and I am really thrilled to be here tonight to talk about flattening the hierarchy.
Hi, and I am Debbie Campbell. I am the Director of Communications and an instructional technologist in Texas, in Houston, at Bel Air High School, a large comprehensive high school of about 3,400 students. And I am happy to be here to talk with my friend from New Jersey and with all of y'all.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, and we're just going to let you share away. We will have questions and answers at the end. So thank you again, ladies.
Okay, so what Michele and I have been talking about and we want to talk with you guys about is kind of flattening the hierarchy and what that looks like and why we believe that it is a very positive, great thing in education. And so the traditional model of leadership and what exists in a lot of places still and within corporations and in education is kind of a top-down hierarchy where there is someone who's worked very hard and gotten to a title that they have worked hard to earn, and with that title comes kind of a protocol on how the organization works. They're the generator of the ideas. They may have a tight structure within them that has titles as well, and then the ideas and the systems are kind of pushed down throughout the organization. And so what are the benefits of that? You know, that kind of organization. I mean, there have to be benefits because it still exists, you know, in a lot of places. And there's accountability. There is someone who's on the hook. There is someone who is just by nature entitled over any project that's going on. And in the models that we're going to talk about, that's not necessarily the case. Constraints, you know, what does this type of leadership do? And so we're specifically going to talk mainly about education, but it takes away ownership, and it also, there's not a lot of luster. I mean, people aren't invested because they're acting basically out of compliance, and that's a big pullback from it. There's a lot of apathy, and people are kind of checking boxes and doing what somebody else has told them without having buy-in. And so Michele is going to kind of jump off and talk about what flattening it a little bit in a hybrid model looks like.
Okay, so yeah, there I am. So flattening the hierarchy for me is really an important concept, because if you look at the new startup companies, you know, you look at your Googles and your Amazon and your Zappos and other startup companies that have just done phenomenal, they have a different model, and you have to really consider that their model is very successful. And why is it so successful? So one of the things that I really think about education, we're talking about changing education, that we do not live in the same generation as the previous generations before, where education was one where students came, they sat, they put their hands together, and they waited to be instructed. And there was a boss who told another person what to do, who then fed it down to the teacher, and then the students were compliant. And it just doesn't look like that anymore. And we've changed so many things about education and how we deliver instruction. But one of the things that we really haven't changed is how the hierarchy of leadership. And so, you know, we start, it depends on where you live and what state you're in. We start with, you know, possibly a state department of ed, who then tells the county department of ed what to do. The county department of ed tells the local school boards what has to be done. The school boards tell the superintendent whom they hire. The superintendent then tells their leadership administrative cabinet what to do, and then it comes down to the teachers, and ultimately we pass that on to our students. And so there's a lot of steps in there, and there's a lot of people telling other people what to do. And by the time it gets to a teacher, we're thinking, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or is that the best idea? Or if I, if I had a magic wand, I would do it differently. And so it begs us to ask the question, should we change that leadership model? And for me, it's a resounding yes, because I think perfect example, I'm a teacher of world language, and there are people making decisions about our honors level program without ever consulting us. And one of the changes that they want to do may really affect our program. So, what does that look like? Shouldn't they include us in that discussion? And that's what we have to get to. So, of course, a bottom up type leadership is just, I don't think that completely works, because, who's in charge, kind of thing, who's going to be accountable, who's going to carry those things out, and is there enough time from the people at the bottom to really facilitate all the things that need to be done? And the answer to that is no. But there definitely is a hybrid model that I think schools can adopt. And so one of the things that Debbie and I have talked about off screen per se is that a lot of times they go through the motions and act as if they are embracing this hybrid model, but what really happens? So in a true hybrid model, they bring in all the stakeholders. And in education, the stakeholders are your community members, your students, your teachers, your administrative cabinet, your school board members, your local businesses, all of those people. And they all have a vested interest in the education system. So why not invite them all in? Starting with your strategic planning for a district. Why not invite those people in and see what their thoughts are? And my experience has been that in strategic planning, they do invite them in, and they ask all those questions. And a really progressive school administration structure takes all that information and they make changes as a result of it. But many people that I know say, yeah, they asked, but they didn't do any of the things that they talked about, and they didn't want to really see any change. Did they even listen to us? And so what Debbie mentioned is absolutely true. What happens when people feel that their voice isn't being heard or it's unimportant? Well, they stop using their voice, and then they become very apathetic. And that is the danger that we face. And I don't think it's just education. I really think that it really is a corporate model that is changing, and a lot of businesses are starting to look at that. But that this topic of flattening the hierarchy is not just an education model, although that's what we're speaking about tonight because we're educators. It really is a corporate issue, that how do we invite everyone's voice, and how do we really listen and make meaningful change as a result of what the people want? And that's so important. So that hybrid model would look like having all stakeholders represented, giving them a voice that is actually listened to and is not judged in any way, and being open to ideas that may seem kind of off the wall or progressive or a little bit crazy, and not shooting them down right away, and say, let's explore that. What would that look like? And let some of these people take that leadership position. So that's a hybrid model that I'd like to see in education. I think there are some really phenomenal educators that are doing that. When we talk to people on Twitter, and so many of them are administrators, and you get a feel for what they are, what their role is in their district. There's so many of them who act as cheerleaders for their staff, and who are embracing this kind of hybrid model. The other day, it was really funny. I think I sent Jodie the image on Twitter. Somebody asked, what would you do how would you change professional development or something? And the response by one of the respondents was, I go to my teachers and I ask them what they want, because what they want is really what we need to do. And so that's really kind of cool, right? So, and that's where we want to move to with a hybrid model.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all such great points, Michele. And when it functions and it's working, it works great. And so what we want to kind of do is talk about some of the ways that people can lead from within an organization. You may not necessarily have an administrative title, or you may not have a traditional position. And I think that that's one point to, like, my position is not traditional whatsoever in a school. And that in itself, opens opportunities. But I think that if you're working for a leader that has adopted a hybrid model for this, and you have a chance to have your ideas heard, that it's really helpful. So some of the ways that you can lead from within are, there's great opportunities out there with ed camps and TED Talks, CBU, and 21st Century Schools, that you don't have to wait for the idea to come to your school. If it's a good idea and it's a good learning opportunity, people want to learn. And if you've got a great idea and you've learned something that is really innovative and interesting, you're gonna be kind of a magnet to people, and that's what we want. And that's the same thing we want with our students. The same thing, we want them bringing in, those ideas and not just sitting there and being compliant. So, what makes a leader? A leader is somebody that somebody wants to follow, and people are going to want to follow you if you are presenting ideas that help them, that make their job more efficient, that make their kids respond in a way that helps them create and communicate with other people. And so that's a really important piece. I think that from leading within the organization, the more you can become the lead learner, and the more effect and the more change you're going to see come about, because that's a hard train to stop if you're sharing something that's important. And I think Michele has a very kind of cool story to share about just that very thing.
Yeah, so it's really, it's a wonderful opportunity when you lead from within and you're not a titled administrator or your title leader in a corporation of any sort, because you have a little bit more luxury to pursue things without everybody's eyeballs on you to see if it works or it doesn't work. And so for me personally, it's been this kind of lurking and finding my niche in ways that are really so interesting, the opportunities that have come my way. I wrote an article that actually, it was really funny because Debbie and Jen and I and Lisa Dabbs, we presented last year at Empower, and I was not supposed to be there. So let me just tell you that quick story, because it's just about leading within. But when I first got onto Twitter, and I'll give full credit to my boss, because we had to follow this certain guy on Twitter, and he said, you got to follow him. And I'm like, not another social media. I don't want to do that. But once I was on, I was hooked, because I started to see the passionate educators. And so one passionate educator, she, side messaged me and she said, hey, I'd like to interview you. And I'm like, but I'm not a woman in ed leader. And she's like, oh no, you are. You're just not a titled women leader, woman leader. And I said, okay, if you're sure about this. So, she did interview me, and it was really very cool. And then she turned me on to the Voxer group that we belong to. And through that, this amazing journey has happened. So I, by proxy, because two people bailed out, wound up just taking a leap of faith and said, I'm going to Empower next year, and I'm just going to meet these women. These women are just so phenomenal. And so it just came about, and I rode on their coattails the entire way, but I loved it. And it was such an exhilarating experience to meet other women who just really held me up and said to me, you are a leader without having a title. People follow you. They want to hear what you have to say. And from that, my journey has just been amazing. I can't even tell you the opportunities that have come my way because of that. And it really had nothing to do with getting a job at school with a title. I mean, and I started to think, do I really need to move up, or can I just move out? Like, can I just go this way? And that for me was really terrific, because I got to meet so many incredible people. And so what last year, this is another crazy story, but people that I met on Twitter, I hooked up with Sean Gellard, and we were talking about something, and he goes, hey, I'm going to be in the principals conference in Philly. Are you going? And I was like, well, I'm not really, but I live near Philly. And he goes, come and just join us. So I went, I hung out for a little bit. I went and had dinner with him and these people from Participate, which are fabulous. And it was just amazing. And you know what? Not one of them said to me, oh, you're just a teacher. And so that's when I really got it. Hang on. Sorry. Okay.
Off with your hands.
That's when I really got it, that I didn't have to have a title. And so that's really important for the people watching tonight, is that if you are an aspiring admin, which many people are, and I think it's an amazing quest. I haven't completely ruled it out. I just might age out before I rule it out. But at the same time, I don't feel like I have to have that title to then do the things that I'm doing. So one of the things that Debbie talked about is TED Talks, which yes, I've applied, and no, I haven't gotten one, but I'll still continue to apply. Ed camps. Ed camps are phenomenal. The thing that I love about ed camps are that you go as a participant and you come back so inspired. And again, not one person at the ed camp looks at you and says, oh, you're just a teacher. They're like, oh my God, you're a teacher. You are the people who are making the magic happen in your classroom. So that for me is just really, really amazing. And I was part of the ESET committee, ESET 2, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, with some local people here in New Jersey that are phenomenal. And again, I joined the committee and just said, what can I do? And it was a leadership role without a title. It was a leadership role. And I got to meet so many incredible people. But more recently, and this just fell into my lap as well, is I've become a part of the family of Disrupt Ed TV. And that happened because I met the founder at the ESET committee conference the first year, and then we were on the committee together, Rich Allen. And he said, hey, we're doing this startup of a television program, web television program that talks about the incredible things that are happening in all over the world in education. And what we do is we interview people. We'd love to interview you. So I said, yes, because Lisa Dabbs told me that, Michelle, you just say yes to things now. So I do. And I got this opportunity to go up and I got to interview. And so I started talking to them. And next thing you know, I'm now doing this school spotlight, which if anybody's watching tonight and you have a really cool, innovative thing, I need a 3 to 5 minute video. And we release it through Disrupt Ed TV. There's nothing to join. We're not collecting your email addresses. We're not trying to sell you anything. It really is just about getting good ideas out there, sharing amongst educators. And so that kind of just fell into my lap. And so, those are the opportunities that you can experience when you lead from within and don't necessarily have a title. I don't ask permission. Let me just say that. I think that that's a really important part. I don't ask permission to do things that I do on my own time, that I do because I want to do. And Jodie and I talked about this maybe last week a little bit after camera, but sometimes you do get a little pushback from people that you work with, that they think you're trying to be all that, or you're trying to get this position. And I said to Jodie, really what they think of me is none of my business. And I just keep doing what I do because it's what's making a difference. And that's what we're all committed to. We're all committed to really an incredible forum for people to connect, for them to share ideas, to inspire one another, and to bring about change in education. And so that's, I hope that if you're watching tonight and you think that you're sitting on that fence, jump off and do something cool, and don't wait for permission, because eventually they'll either chase you or alienate you or whatever they do, but you just have to still walk in your truth.
I want to jump in on this because Is this how this works? Can I jump in, Michele?
Yeah, Lisa is a colleague of mine. Should we have her jump in now, Jodie, or in a little bit?
Oh, whatever. I don't know the rules to this. This is my first time.
That's
Jodie, you're muted.
Forgot. Do you have anything else you want to share?
Hey, Michele?
Debbie.
Yeah, I actually do have a couple things I want to share, and then we'll go to questions and comments. Is that okay?
Yes.
Sure.
So, is that okay with
ID, okay? Hold on.
Okay, yeah, just a couple other things that to share, and then we'll go to questions and some comments. One of the things I think is really important, especially this is aspiring leaders and looking at that, and I think that you have control over where you work, and sometimes making a change one way or the other. I think that if you're an aspiring leader, who you're working with and working under is really important and can make a big difference. And I, like Michele, don't ask for permission, but I also work for someone who expects me not to ask for permission. And I think that, you make a decision where you work. And so I would encourage people, if you're not working in an environment that fosters that and encourages that type of mentality, that I'd run for the hills and find someone who wants to give you opportunities and wants you to, be an idea generator. Because one of the things that you can do, the best thing that can happen is that you bring forth an idea and the people in the room, they collide with that idea and something better comes from it. And that's true leadership. And that's why this model works. So if you're not in an environment that really promotes that, that's gonna be difficult for you. So I would just encourage you, if you are not working in an environment that is structured in that way, that it's really important that you move yourself somewhere so that you can develop and lead other people. The other thing that I'll just mention, we've mentioned a couple of times, like TED Talks and Ed Camps, and it's not necessarily just going and being a participant, that kind of thing, and Michele touched on this, but, look for ways and things that you can initiate or partner with people and develop and offer so that other people can come and learn. Because again, it's all about that learning thing. If you're learning, what opportunities can you create for other people, to learn? And I think that anyone who is, drawn towards leadership, you're drawn because you want to make a bigger impact on kids and you're just kind of passionate about what you do. That's why you're doing it. You're not doing it for necessary pay or a title or any of those things. You're just excited about what you're doing. So I would just encourage anybody to make sure that those things are kind of aligned for them, and they'll have a lot more success and feel better about what they're doing.
And I'll go back to what Debbie said, which is finding that person or that organization that really is innovative enough that they're going to allow you to lead. Because sometimes my experience has been watching other people with jobs is they have a predefined idea of what they want for that role, and they are not willing to any other capacity. And I always think to myself, well, if I had that job, I would do it so differently. I would approach it so differently. And often you get into interviewing for organizations that are very, very rigid in terms of their hierarchy and what it is that they want you to do. And they basically, we go back to this thing about being compliant, Debbie, right? So like, they look at you and they think you will be a nice fit if you just stay in your box and you do what we ask you to do. And I would beg you to not because that is not going to be a healthy environment for you if you're a person who's creative, who wants to do things differently and wants to shake it up. As an aspiring man, often those first jobs that you get are really the middle management. And you've got to be really certain that when you take a job as a middle manager, that you are working for somebody who is embracing your leadership abilities and qualities and really wants you to participate fully and not just be in that box, because otherwise you're going to get there and you're going to think, this is not the place for me. So it's really important to think about that. And for me, that's one of the things that is really great about where I am right now, which is I'm in a position where I get to do so many cool things and I don't have to ask permission. And yet I know that I make a difference in lots of ways that are meaningful. And so that's the really great luxury. It's not to dissuade anybody from administration, because as I said, if I were a little bit younger, I think my goal would probably be, you know, headed in that direction. But it certainly is something that if you have no mobility, if you don't have the impetus to go back and get all the schooling necessary, but you still have that leader in you, how does it step outside? Like, how do you embrace that? And that's the important question that you want to ask yourself. What is it that I want to do? I remember I was going to go for a position, and I have a friend, her name is Debbie too. And I called her and I said, do you know anyone in the district? You know, blah, 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 blah. And she said, Michele, what do you love to do? And I said, oh, I love to inspire teachers. I love to turnkey professional development. I love this. I love that. And she said, and how much of that job is that? And I go, I don't know, like 10%. And she looked at me and she goes, so why are you applying for that job? And I pulled the application. I was like, she's absolutely right. That is not a job that is going to allow me to do any of those things. And so now am I just going after that title as opposed to really a position where I could make meaningful change? So those are really great questions to ask yourself as an aspiring admin, why you're doing it, what you hope to accomplish. Does it encompass all of the things that you love to do? And then if you get that job, how will you do it differently? And how will you relay to the people that you're interviewing with your desire to be really progressive and do something different?
Good point, Michele. Okay, Jodie, I think that we are kind of where we are in our outline.
Okay. I remember to unmute myself this time. So thank you both. This was wonderful. I was taking down some notes and ideas as you were talking, so thank you. I appreciate both of your time this evening. It was wonderful. Lots to learn. So thank you. We have only 2 or 3 more. I can't believe it's like almost the end of, the school year and the first year of this mentorship type program. But it's been wonderful learning from everybody. So thank you for your input this evening. I certainly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jodie.
Be here.